Hi, and welcome to GENO'S Picks, brought to you by our good friends at SBR Forum. Why do I call them our good friends? Because since they paired up with us 2 weeks ago, we've been on fire. I know we were 2-2-1 last week, but that's still 67%. And since we gave you a push, we give you an extra pick. You get 6 picks, not pick 6. I'm not Tony Romo. See what I did? You get 6 winning picks, so let's get to it. But first, you know what really grinds my gears? Merril Hoge, yeah, less than 3 months after he gets into a Twitter war with Tim Tebow, who responds with nothing but class, because that's what he is, and it pains me to say it, because he's a Denver Bronco. Tebow nearly leads the Broncos back against the Chargers Sunday. Thank God he didn't come too close, because we still covered. But when they spoke with Merril Hoge on NFL Live, what did he say? Rather than admit he was wrong, and he couldn't admit that Orton should be sorry, he's like, well, it's just a terrible situation. Really? You know what part of being a good analyst is, Merril Hoge? Admitting when you're wrong. Look at great analysts like Ron Jaworski and Trent Dilfer. Never afraid to say they're wrong, and they give you great insight. That is why their opinion is valued, and they'll be around for a long time. Unlike you, Merril Hoge, who, given the fact that you were never good when you played and had to leave early because of a concussion, no one's going to remember who you are in 3 years, and probably neither will you. Ha! Now to the picks. My first pick, yeah, we're up close because we get so many letters saying, Gene, you're such a good-looking guy.
No, we don't.
Shut up, Joe. The point is, my first pick. The Buffalo Bills are giving 3 points to the G-Men in New York. Now, everyone's sitting there saying, which Giants team is going to show up? I'll tell you which Giant team is going to show up. The only one there is, the one that stinks, okay? They lost to Seattle last week. They lost to the Cardinals 2 weeks ago, despite that terrible call. And before that, who'd they beat? They beat the Rams. Beating the Rams is like beating someone at the Special Olympics. And before we get any letters, I apologize to the mentally handicapped people at the Special Olympics that I just compared to the retards on the Rams. The Rams are terrible. Beating them proves nothing. The Giants aren't that good. And I'll tell you who is good. The Bills offense. And the Giants D is going to have trouble with them all day. Especially with one guy we like to call Fred Jackson. That guy is awesome. And unlike the other Jackson that's getting all the news right now, Fred Jackson breathes some life into his offense. Take the Bills. Lay the 3. My next pick, the Eagles travel to Washington where they're laying 1.5 points to the Redskins. Yeah, this is terrible, right? Everyone thinks the Redskins, how are they not favored at home? I'll tell you how they're not favored at home, because they spent the bye week acting like idiots who'd never been there before. Yeah, you're at the top of your division. So what are you going to do? If you're Chris Cooley, you're going to say, it cracks me up when Tony Romo throws an interception, and Hightower's already talking about being interviewed at the Super Bowl? Way to just put a bullseye on yourself. And yes, the Eagles are terrible. And I heard someone say today, why didn't they cut Jason Avant? Cut Jason Avant. It's not his fault that the Eagles in the offseason turned an offensive line coach into a defensive coordinator. And I'll tell you something else. Even though the Eagles are 1-4, they'd be 3-2 if Jeremy Maclin could hold on to a ball, and 4-1 if Jason Avant could hold on to a ball. And the person we really need to focus on is Andy Reid, because we've said it before. Andy Reid, stop getting in the red zone inside the 20 and taking out your playmakers like Deshaun Jackson, Jeremy Maclin, and LaShawn McCoy. Why are they on the sideline? Being a good NFL coach to your players is like being a good husband to your wife. You stick with them, even when they're in the red zone. Am I right? And believe me, when they're in the red zone, they don't want you scoring with anyone else. Andy Reid, wise up. Use the offense you have. Take the birds. Lay the 1.5. My next pick, yeah, you get a bonus because of the push last week. The Atlanta Falcons are giving 3.5 to the Panthers in Atlanta. People, I know the Falcons are 2-3, but they're tired of losing, and they've had a tough go of it. Green Bay last week, a tough road loss against the Buccaneers the week before. Seattle made it close. They were out there. They're tired of it. So now Carolina comes in, and I think they're going to beat the crap out of them. And I know Matty Ryan gets sacked a lot. I think it's funny that this week Steve Young's wife surprised him for his 50th birthday with a flash mob, which I don't think is a big deal, because Atlanta's offensive line surprises Matt Ryan with a flash mob every 3 downs. Yeah, but, well, you get those in the takes every week. The point is, Atlanta's tired of losing, and they're going to take it out on the Panthers this week. People, take Atlanta, lay the 3.5. Which brings me to my lock of the week. Yeah. Where do we get those pictures? They're great. The Steelers are giving a dozen to the Jaguars in Pittsburgh. Yeah. Yeah, people, why only a dozen is my question, because the Jaguars played a close game last week. Look, Jacksonville, there's a big difference between playing the Steelers in Pittsburgh and the Bengals at your home field. You know, the Bengals whose offensive plan is Benson, hope for the best. Steelers have a great offense, and whether Mewelde Moore is running the ball or Isaac Redmond or Mendy's healthy, they're going to run up and down the field. You know why? Because I can't name a single player in Jacksonville's secondary, and you think you could because they're the ones getting all the tackles. Face it, it's going to be a long day for Jacksonville. The Steelers are going to run up and down on the field, and when they're not, look for Davis and Wallace to be targeted more than a fat kid playing dodgeball. People, take the Steelers, lay the 12. Which brings me to my Double Your Money Monday Night Bet, or as I like to call it, the hell with it. We can buy groceries next week. All right, people, the Dolphins are getting a touchdown from the Jets in New York. The Jets are a mess right now, as evidenced by the fact that they traded Derek Mason because of his poor output on the field. Really? You don't think it's because him and everyone else on the offense is bitching about the terrible play calling of Brian Schottenheimer? But who do you cut? You don't cut Plaxico or Holmes. You cut the guy that sends a message and is expendable in Derek Mason. Because you know that's a lie. Blaming Derek Mason for having a poor reception total with Mark Sanchez as your quarterback, that's like blaming a rabbi in Germany for having a poor congregation total in 1942. Right, it's not his fault. And no matter what you do, you're going to get burned. People, the Dolphins are going to lose by less than a touchdown. Take the Fins and the 7. You're going to get burned.